All right, I've got Mario Brainovic, the CEO of Analemma-Water. He's a structured water expert and much, much more. Mario, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to dive into things. I told you before, I've had a lot of water experts on my show. I think I understand this idea behind coherent water, but for a lot of people, I'm sure it just seems very woo woo. And now you've guys got a product and some more things that you're doing, and your team sent me this amazing wand. But anyone who's looking at this wand is going to say, Joel, this is all a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of BS. It's all that quack, wackadoodle science. So, first, I think before we even get into any of this, talk to people about what the heck is coherent water, which, someone is going to say that's just a marketing fad. That's just some kind of term. They're snake oil. They're trying to steal your money. So what the heck is coherent water versus regular water, and why should we care?
So just like a short intro story. So 15 years ago, Dr. Eric Larker and Dolph Zontinge, our two founders, they actually came together and they were kind of concerned with the state of the world and how everything is happening. So they've decided, it's going to sound crazy, but they wanted to figure out the secret to life. And they actually brought their minds together and they picked up a lab of a famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Popp, the whole lab with all scientists in it. And they started doing various research. And very soon into the research, they zeroed in water. Because they realized that water is the most fundamental level of our existence, of all of biological systems. It's interesting to a lot of people know that we are actually 70% water in mass, but in molecules we are 99% water. We're basically very clever H2O when you look at it. So that clearly off the bat tells you there is something extraordinarily important about water. And 15 years ago already in the research, they realized when you change water, all of the biology follows. That's why it was so important. So when you mentioned structured water, we realized and we gathered samples from all over the planet that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So H2O molecules in water, they move chaotically, they crash into each other constantly. But since all of this is happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware of it. This chaos has a profound effect on our overall health and wellness, even though we're completely unaware of it. So we found a way to bring harmony back into this chaos. When you treat water in specific ways, there are these coherent fields that start to appear on it. Colloquially speaking, H2O molecules join hands and start forming a liquid crystalline structure. Through that unique process, water actually becomes alive. It actually becomes empowered. You are unleashing the true power of water by doing that. To kind of explain in a simple terms, if you take 5-watt bulb, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, which is actually a coherent form of light, you can drill a hole through your table. So the light is there, but the power of it is extraordinarily concentrated.
Okay, that makes sense to me. And, speaking on that, you mentioned dead and alive water. And I remember speaking with another water expert, and he said, Joel, you put water in plastic bottles that you find in the store. That's all dead water. I mean, it's completely dead. It's doing nothing for you. But, I guess my question is, okay, I still think no one is going to believe this conversation we're having. And even if, let's say, my water is structured, right? I use your device and it structures my water. I have this coherent water. And everything you're saying that most of us are water beings, and so it's harmonious to our body. That makes sense to me. But when I start to drink it, doesn't it just lose all of its chaos? Is there any science or anything to show that by drinking this water we're seeing differences, or it maintains that coherence, and that coherence is somehow bringing that aliveness to our body? I have no idea.
That's the whole thing. That's what we decided. We didn't want to just kind of prove, okay, there is something happening with the water itself. Our number one goal was to prove, or to actually find out in the beginning, and now it opened huge doors, what's happening with biological systems when they're exposed to coherent water. That's where we actually went. Just to
Amazing.
kind of make one step back. What water is? This is a key question. Water is what we realized is water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. It's always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So whatever you expose your water to, it will pick up that particular frequency. When we realized that, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is, because we knew that when you would expose any other water to it, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, all of the water will become it. That's why we created what we call the mother water. And this mother water exists in this crystalline vial, this crystal vial. A crystal serves just as a simple, it creates barrier between the mother water, which is inside the vial, and any other water outside. But more importantly, crystal is a superconductor. So it transmits the frequency of mother water, which is inside, to any water outside. So any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure. So when you swirl your Analemma stick through the glass of your water, within 15 to 30 seconds, all of the water inside of your glass becomes the mother water.
Okay, so what you're
And then you
saying,
drink it.
Mario. Okay, that's amazing. So I'm holding the vial up. Anybody watching on video can see this. I'm holding the vial up. It's very simple. I'm not saying it's simple in how it works, but just it looks very simple. You're saying that, because I was going to ask you that. Well, what if I am being bombarded by EMFs? What if I have another device that creates coherence supposedly in the house, like a Somavedic or a Lila Q block? Is that going to ruin this mother water? But you're saying no, you guys have created it in a way that it can transmit the frequency but not be disturbed.
That's the whole thing. Water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency. And up until now, we really tested it a lot. And we actually radiated it in all kinds of ways to see whether it will break its structure. And it never did. That's the number one thing about this water. It's extraordinarily resilient. So any water you bring to it, all of other water picks up its frequency, not the other way around. That's the number one difference. And it's all about, I always say this, very famous scientist, like one of the most famous scientists of all time, Nikola Tesla. He said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. And water is a broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration. And it is therefore the most essential level of our existence. And our science clearly proved that when you change the water, everything else changes. Maybe it's a good moment to jump into human studies that we did, because
you beat me to it. I wanted to ask you, okay, you just mentioned studies. We've done radiation. Okay, great. Everyone's going to ask, do you have, double-blind, placebo, randomized control studies? Mario, before you go into the studies, I just thought of something as you were talking, before you answer that question. If what you're saying is true about water, and we are all water, can I just hold your device for a certain amount of time, and will I now take on this mother frequency? If so, have you guys done tests just holding it?
That's also very, very interesting question. Before we go to human studies, I just want to address this.
Okay. Yeah.
So people actually started wearing analemmas around their necks, and they had extraordinary results. We always tell them it's a fragile thing, so anything can happen and it can kind of break. So kind of please be mindful how you use it. But people were so insisted that we are now thinking of creating pendants, which are going to be a bit sturdier. But just to kind of reinforce this story, when we were doing studies a couple of years ago with GlycanAge, where we measured biological age of people, and this was also an amazing study, we always told people expose their analemma to the sun, because water loves the sun. So we just told them kind of put it somewhere for a couple of minutes on the sun. And this lady, she has this small garden of small plants, and every single time she placed her analemma on the same spot in that garden. And after a month and a half, she sent me a photo. It's like you drew a circle around the analemma. All of the plants around the analemma grew 1.5 inches taller than anywhere else in the garden. So this clearly proves that there is a powerful biological effect just by proximity. You don't even have to drink it. If you have it, it will have a profound effect on you because, as I mentioned, we are 99% of our molecules are water. So, and water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So if you have high frequency water next to you, your entire biology is going to react. So to come back to human studies, so since this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon, so to speak, we were kind of thinking, what's the most electromagnetic part of our existence? And we realized it's the brainwaves. And it's very measurable. So the science reached this spot that you can in a very detailed manner measure any and all changes. So what we did, we did a double-blind study with identical twins. Because they're genetically identical, it's very easy to kind of compare the results. So the doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which water was which. And they had QEEG equipment on their heads, and we monitored their brainwaves, and the results were really phenomenal. Almost instantly, as the twin that drank Analemma-Water took a sip, there was almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant cooling effect on the brain waves, while the other twin that drank regular water experienced nothing. Now that's really interesting to observe because this happens very, very, very fast. And then 3 weeks later, we repeated the experiment, but with the other twin. And we saw exactly, like you copy-pasted, exactly the same phenomenon happening because these are two genetically identical twins. So we saw exactly the same phenomenon while the then now first twin experienced nothing. So that clearly showed that there is something biologically remarkable happening there when you drink this water. And this was just the first step. This is somewhere where this water shows almost immediate effect. Then we went in all of the other studies. Just so you know, our early research was actually in plants. We had this huge greenhouse in the Netherlands, and we really did a lot of studies. That's where we kind of really had profound discoveries how biology changes when you change the water. Actually, Dr. Fritz Popp, this famous German scientist, he developed this technology where he measured biophotons. So biophotons are these tiny particles of light which every living thing exudes. You radiate light, literally. All of the human beings, every single living thing actually radiates light. I find this really fascinating. So he created this very, very, very sensitive equipment with which you can actually capture every single biophoton. So you can measure the vitality of any living system by the quantity of light they emit. A long story short, we actually grew tomatoes with regular water and with Analemma-Water. And tomatoes that were grown with Analemma-Water, they exude 60% more light than tomatoes grown with regular water. So this is a sign of extraordinary vitality. So then we were thinking, how does biophotons, how can we correlate this with human beings? What kind of measurement can we do with human beings? Because it's very hard to measure biophotons in humans. You need like large chambers. And then we realized it's ATP, adenosine triphosphate, the primary energy currency of our cells. Every breath, every heartbeat depends on ATP. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured ATP levels in humans. So we measured mitochondrial activity of human body. So in the beginning, we actually employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can accurately, very accurately measure ATP levels, intercellular ATP levels in biological systems, in humans in this way. So what we did, we took a snapshot of ATP levels in people. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their diets, didn't change the exercise regime, they didn't change anything else. Everything else stayed the same. And then after 2 months, we took another snapshot to see what happened with ATP levels. And we had 20% rise over the placebo in overall mitochondrial energy of the body. When you calculate the placebo in, that's 26%. So your overall mitochondrial energy of the body increased by 26% just by drinking the water. Now, if you give your body a couple of percent of energy, it will definitely know how to kind of use that energy. And we are talking about a third, almost a third of increase in overall energy. And not only that, the implications of this are really profound. All scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is a decline in mitochondrial function. And with this, we unequivocally proved that mitochondrial function increases more than significantly just by drinking the water. So that's really a profound discovery. And it has also this other implication, how our bodies are actually getting energy. If our mitochondria, if they have the ability to transfer or transform sugars and fats, which are our primary fuels, into energy, then our whole system thrives. If in any way that ability is impeded in some way, then you have all kinds of problems, diseases, obesity, all kinds of problems. And we clearly proved that just by drinking the water, your overall mitochondrial function increases more than significantly.
Yeah, that's massive. Right now, there's a lot of talk in the anti-aging and longevity community. They're looking at NAD, NMN, and that is a precursor or to make ATP, energy, which you're talking about. And everyone is just really they're just really, loving this supplement because the idea is if we can increase mitochondrial output in ATP, we can reduce inflammation and then age more gracefully. You're doing this a 26% increase by just changing the water, no supplement needed.
So and just so you know, we are actually doing now a study on NAD because there is a huge correlation between ATP and NAD. So we just want to prove as well that just by drinking the water, not only your ATP levels are going to increase, but your NAD levels are going to increase. And that has profound effects on aging and being healthy through aging.
Yeah, 100% it does. So that's really neat. Of course, Mario, people are going to say, well, great, these studies sound great. Where are they? Can people find the studies? And also, I'm curious, are you partnering with other, I know there's a lot of big universities, usually not in America. They're typically like in Germany or something, like the Emoto Institute, probably in Japan, or some of these big organizations that can do larger scale studies. Do you have anybody that's interested in doing that or has already done it?
I mean, this is interesting. We are connected. This water community has a group of scientists, and all of us, we all know each other. Because it's not a huge community, you don't have thousands and thousands of scientists. This whole, let's say, circle is not that big. So no, everybody knows.
There's like 10
everybody.
Of you probably.
Yeah, and every single year there is water conference. So all kind of scientists come together, and then everybody is sharing their advances, and there are many, so it really is an interesting thing. So yeah, we are connected basically throughout the world with all of the water scientists. Whoever is kind of working on water, they know us very well and we know them. But to come back to the study that you mentioned, all of our studies are independently done. From that perspective, it was really important for us that, and of course, this ATP study is going to be published very soon, so that all of our science is peer-reviewed and all of our science actually speaks for itself. And as I mentioned to you in the even before we started the interview, we barely scratched the surface. We really are, even though we already have a lot of science, we're just at the very beginning in discovering what water actually has the power to do for our entire biology. So I'm hugely excited about everything. And we're not talking only about, we're talking about every living thing. We're talking about plants, we're talking about animals, we're talking about humans, but not only that. We're talking about environment as well. And now is a good moment to jump into a really important part of where this water plays really extraordinary role. So due to extraordinary pollution, how big agriculture companies are using all kinds of toxins, glyphosate, you and your people, they know about the whole thing. So what we were really concerned about, and wanted to see what happens with the soil when you water it with Analemma water. So what we did, we took completely depleted, destroyed piece of land by various toxins, including glyphosate. So it was completely barren. You couldn't grow anything on it. So one part of it we watered with regular water, and one part we watered with Analemma water. And after 2 months, we did another test. So the part of the water that was a part of the soil that was watered with regular water, nothing happened. So it was dead. So there was no actually any change. It just stayed completely the same. But the part that was watered with Analemma water, there was huge explosion in the biodiversity of the microbiome. Huge explosion. So much so that the bacteria in the soil started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belonged. Now you can imagine the environmental effect of this water. You just water the land with it, you change the microbiome of the soil, and the soil will solve the greenhouse gases, excess CO2 that we have in our atmosphere. But not only that, for the agriculture, another thing actually happened. The whole nitrogen cycle got upgraded. The total nitrogen in the soil increased exponentially. There's also one other element which is really awesome. Usually when the rain falls, all of the nutrients go to deeper layers. But with Analemma water, there is a huge retainment of those nutrients and minerals in the top layer of the soil where the plant can actually use it. So within only 2 months, Analemma water managed to completely revitalize and make a dead piece of soil fertile, which is really extraordinary. So it really has a profound effect on life. That's why we feel that we serve this water, not the other way around. Mm-hmm. Because when you feel and witness the changes that happen in biology, the only thing that you want to do is kind of bring it to the world in whatever way you can. Now I just can continue to go back to human studies again, because we were really inspired with the whole microbiome of the soil thing, because there was explosion there. We wanted to see what's going to happen with human microbiome. So what we did a double-blind placebo-controlled study where we measured what is called dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So dysbiosis index measures the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the bacterial phyla and species and their weighing factor. So again, we took a snapshot of a microbiome in participants in the study. Then they drank 1.5 liters of water for 2 months without changing anything else in their world. They didn't change their diets, they didn't change their exercise regime, anything else that could change their microbiome in any way or form. And then we took another snapshot. And on average, we had 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So microbiome improved. And there is now science in the last couple of decades have connected the changes or the state of microbiome with basically any area of human health. So we're not talking about just digestive health. We're talking about immune health. We're talking about levels of inflammation. We're talking about neurological effects. I mean, this is really interesting. I know your people are aware, but I just love to geek out on this. So people are talking about neural pathways and serotonin. 95% of serotonin is actually being created in the gut. So the state of our microbiome is hugely important because this serotonin and various other neurotransmitters are being delivered to our brains through the gut-brain axis, and they're actually changing neural pathways. They're actually changing how we feel, how we perceive ourselves, how we think. So the state of our microbiome is extraordinarily important. Now we're actually doing extraordinary new study because we want to do a deep dive. We're going to do a whole DNA sequencing of an entire microbiome, and we're going to do a crossover study because every single microbiome is like a fingerprint. It's unique. So we're going to have people to be on the placebo at one period of time and on the real thing, drinking actual Analemma water for a different period of time. And then we compare the results on the same microbiome. Because there you can actually see how profound the change actually is. So we're hugely excited about that study. I'm guessing that within the next, let's say, 3 to 4 months, it will be done. And we're really excited to share those results as well.
Wow. That's massive. So I was going to ask you about toxins. You and I must be on the same frequency because you beat me to it, the question. One of the things, and everyone should know in the audience, and I think a lot of them do, but we talk about microbiome diversity. The more rich your microbiome diversity is, the better you can. Usually we see less inflammation and a boost of immunity, right? So that's massive that you're changing that diversity. Melatonin for sleep, serotonin, all made in the gut. So if your gut is off, you're going to have a lot of probably neurological issues like you just mentioned. And so I was thinking too, if I have some regular tap water and, tap water, right? Who knows what's in it? Lead, cadmium, arsen, I have no idea. And I was thinking if I stir the Analemma stick, is it going to nullify the toxins, or is it just that when it enters my body, it's going to have less of a disastrous effect because the water becomes more? Do you know if there's any? Obviously, we know that the diversity in the body is changing, and so you are better able to handle it. But do we know if it's actually nullifying toxins? Anything on that?
This is it. It will definitely help, even if you have tap water. It will definitely upgrade your information system or operating system, so to speak, so that the effects, negative potential effects, are going to be much, much, much smaller. But there is one key element that people don't actually talk about when they're talking about water. People usually talk about kind of purifying it from the chemical perspective. But what they don't realize is that every single one of those chemicals, even though if you take them out, the frequency of those chemicals are still there. So if you don't purify that, it's like you took them anyhow. And we are actually treating the water exactly from that perspective. So we are entirely changing the frequency of the water, upgrading it to a level where your body can work with it in an amazing way. This actually, I have to share with you a study that we did early on, which really kind of blew our minds. So what we did, we took seeds and we watered some with regular water and some with Analemma water. And we measured biophoton emissions. And with seeds watered with regular water, we didn't see really nothing special happening. But the seeds watered with Analemma water, we started seeing these peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It was like it was breathing somehow. We started seeing this sinusoidal shape. And after a while, we realized that it followed the tides. It connected the seed, this tiny element of life, to circadian rhythm of nature. The seed started breathing or electromagnetically vibrating with its larger environment. that really was a huge kind of eye-opening for us, because we knew that it has profound effects on, it connects us electromagnetically to our larger environment. And I have to say one more thing about that brainwave study, which I didn't actually mention. We started seeing this delta coherence in brainwaves. Delta coherence happens when people meditate. Delta coherence happens when people use psilocybin. When your entire brain or being gets connected in a profound way. But this doesn't just happen within our body, within ourselves. We get connected to something which is relevant on a larger vibrational scale, which truly has a profound effect. That's why we call this water conscious water. And when people drink this water, after a while, they change. They really change in so many ways. They start to change their diets. They start to change in every essential way. And it all happens naturally. It's not happening in any forced or whatever way. You just feel more inclined to what makes you healthier, to what makes you more connected in every real and positive way.
It makes complete sense to me. I mean, we're changing frequencies, and when you change frequencies, you can only vibrate with someone on the same wavelength, or you're not going to vibrate with someone higher than you, only someone that is equal to or less. So, I mean, it makes complete. You just upgraded someone's frequency. You upgraded their higher version of who they are, the highest version of themselves. I mean, everything's going to get better. So it
Exactly.
makes complete sense.
That's why we say when you change the water, water is the most fundamental level of our existence. And not only that, these old radios were crystal in nature. So it's like an antenna. Your entire body, when you look at it, 99% of our molecules of water. We are all an antenna. Now it's just a matter of what frequency do you receive? What frequency do you transmit? What is your vibrational state? And that is the most important element of our life. When you address this part of our existence, everything else gets changed in a positive and good way.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, Mario, you've geeked out on the science. We talked about coherent water. I think everyone kind of gets the gist of why it's important. Is there anything else like that you really think people should know, or is there any, I mean, we've covered a lot already, but is there anything else on your mind? You're like, guys, you got to understand.
I love one other thing that I have to say, because this is kind of the whole new thing that we are doing now. We actually we came up with this whole house system where people can install the Analemma in their piping system of the house, and then all of the water in your house is coherent. So we kind of hypothesized the skin is our largest organ on the body. We were kind of thinking, what's going to happen if people will be submerged in Analemma water for 20 to 30 minutes? And we actually hooked up with Hydrate Spa in America with Dr. Greg Lane and my good friend David Perez. He has this equipment, this doctor has this equipment, and David, where they measure before and after. So it was an awesome kind of environment to test the effects of this water. So if we are now doing 100 people study, and the results are really phenomenal. Every single person in the study. So we're talking about 20 to 30 minutes just laying down in Analemma water. They had improvement in cardiac output, in stroke volume, in blood viscosity, but more importantly, in heart rate variability. So heart rate variability, your people know how important it is to have increased or high heart rate variability. It's a powerful indicator of how you live, of when you're going to die, of your longevity. Not only that, your mental state, your emotional state. People who suffer from anxiety and depression, they have low heart rate variability. And every single person, the minimum that every single person in the study experienced of increase of heart rate variability is 30%. Whoa. And people go to 100. So depending on where they are. So the results are really, really, really phenomenal. So I'm really excited about that. And we're expanding our research there. We want to work on athletes as well because we had one prominent athlete whose cardiac output is really strong, and even their cardiac output increased. So we want to measure athletic performance as well. So how does athletic performance changes just by either taking a bath or drinking Analemma water? So just wanted to put that out there because I'm really excited about the how we are doing this research now, and I'm going to inform you about the results of that study as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, if someone's HRV is, for athletes, especially at the higher tier athletes or anybody really, it's not about a lot of times the output. They always are outputting a lot. It's their ability to recover so that they can continue to do it again. And HRV is a huge measurement of recovery. And so if you're getting a 26% increase in HRV or sometimes, even larger, man, that's going to be massive for athletes. I mean, anybody really. Talk about just some of the products. We have the wand here, and maybe you could just tell people like in an entry level, what they can expect if they want to get the wand and just be able to do their water at their house. And then what other products do you have? Is it just this and the whole house filter? And what can people expect price-wise? What does that typically run for people?
So our whole thing is we wanted to make this technology available because we're not talking about just America. We want to make it available to almost every single family on the planet. So that's why we kind of wanted to price it in the low end so everybody can afford. That's why this entry level, this Analemma, this wand, the price of it is $180. And this is interesting. You actually wanted to ask me what's the difference between Analemma and these other technologies.
Thanks for coming back to that. And I already know from talking to you, you're not the kind of guy who's gonna badmouth any company. I could. There's no way I could. As much as hard as I try to well, tell me what you think about this company. I want to know. I know you won't. But there's a lot of other technologies out there. Somavedic, Lila Q. There's other ones out there too that do similar but different things. Yeah. So what would you say to kind of what makes you guys
just so you know, all of most of those I cannot say all. We tested most of them. So they actually change the structure of the water. So it's a given. So it does change the structure of the water. The key element there is its longevity or resilience. So in all of the water that we tested, the water stays in the coherent state between a couple of minutes and a day and a half. Then the water molecules break and they go back into chaos. With Analemma water, we tested it now 6 consecutive years. After just one treatment, after 6 years, the water is still in the same state. It never loses its state of coherence. Just, I haven't mentioned this, to create mother water, it takes 1 full year for us. Whoa. It has 5 stages, and after it passes through the 5th stage, it never goes back to chaos. And we then did all kinds of things that usually bring water to chaos. We radiated with 5G. We did all kinds of things, which, 5G and EMFs, they really bring water into chaos. And we tested this through brainwaves, various other ways. Not only that, through plants, we really proved that EMFs are not good for biological systems.
And Mario, if you heat up water, you boil it, that changes its coherence too, right?
No, it will when it starts boiling, but as soon as it cools down, the water molecules go back into the structure.
All right, well then I'll just boil my coffee and then I'll just stir afterwards.
Yeah, we always say to people, make it coherent before.
Do it before, okay.
Yeah. When the water is cold, you just kind of make it coherent and then boil it. So it's not either tea or coffee. I mean, you could use the wand on it as well, but we always kind of say because this is a delicate piece of crystal, so it doesn't break or whatever. We just kind of tell to people, treat it as a jewel.
Yeah.
Treat it as a kind of really care for it. And if you care for it, it will create coherent water for you for life.
Amazing.
So yeah, the next thing that we are going to be coming out in a while, it's still not there yet, is the pitcher or the decanter for water, which you just pour the water in and it will make it coherent. We are launching now in a couple of days Garden Analemma, so people can actually grow their food, like to grow the best possible food you can grow for yourself, which has extraordinary vitality. So this was one thing that we want, and we are launching it now. We have a whole house system.
Will it get rid of all my weeds? out here that I'm dealing with
No,
if I.
no, no. Weeds are going to grow like crazy.
But if I can change the diversity by putting coherent water on, you might expect there to be a different microbial diversity within the grass. Maybe there would be some change because
Well,
the
I don't know. We haven't
possibly
we
be
haven't
interesting.
done a study on it, but what we found is that results on plants are remarkable. Actually, we can maybe jump in there because I want to tell this story. We
Okay.
did this study, just this the latest study that we did. We actually took basil plants. We watered some with regular water, some with Analemma water, and then we created a short-term drought and we let the plants recover. And we measured physiological responses of plants to stress through all of this period using the latest fluorescence-based technology. So we actually you take the whole plant into this high-tech scanner, which takes high depth, deep resolution images of the plant, and you get a mountain of data through this particular scanner to get the mountain of data on what's happening to the plant on a molecular level. So what we did, we measured how how the plants are using water to regulate its temperature, how it's using water to cool itself down when there is stress outside or superheat. The other thing is that we measured how it uses light in the process of photosynthesis because plants use photosynthesis to get food for themselves, especially when under stress. And we also measured the pigments. So the pigments are the compounds in the plant which give it color. But more than that, through pigments, you see whether the plant is keeping all of its system run optimally. So in 20 different markers, we had significant positive changes. So this clearly proved that plants become extraordinarily resilient when watered with NLM water. And with this extreme weather that we're having on this planet, it's going to become really, really, really important to have plants that can actually not only survive, but they can thrive. So
Yeah.
with this study, we actually proved this. So anybody who has their own gardens, they can kind of use garden lemma, but we also developed large agriculture systems so that it can be applied anywhere. And we need to change the whole agriculture game anyhow, because these large companies, they're not about the health, not about the vitality, and they should be because all of this is entering into our systems. Our food becomes who we are, and it's not good at this point in time.
Yeah, agreed. And I think the more independent and the autonomy that we can have in controlling our own life through livestock and knowing our farmers and being able to care for it's just going to be huge. We saw a lot of changes in the last 3 years, and so
Yes.
I'm a big fan of being able to control my own output and especially food is a big one, and I know that's something I've shifted into and going less to the Whole Foods and less to the Amazons and trying to stay more local in my
And,
own yard
and
too.
less the less processed, the better. That's the whole
100%.
thing. Real food, what you grow in your garden, real fruits and veggies and whatever, meats and cheeses and eggs, whatever, so that you know how you're treating it because it's all part of life. And if you know exactly what you're eating, then your whole body is going to behave in totally different way.
Yeah. Okay, I cut you off. So you got the wand, we've got the decanter coming, and then the next one is the whole house filter
Whole house
system.
is already out, so
It's already
anybody
out.
can, yeah. So anybody can purchase it, can install it in the piping system of your house. Then you don't have to swirl, you don't have to do anything. Anywhere you open your
And I can
faucet,
bathe in it, which is pretty cool.
that's the key element. You don't have to. Some people kind of it's a bit more expensive product. For the whole house system is 1,800. So some people couldn't afford it, and I just told them, well, if you don't mind waiting, you can just put your Analemma stick underneath the flowing water and just stay there until the bathtub is full, and it is going to be coherent. You will need
It,
to kind of wait
Mario,
there for 15 minutes, but yeah,
you said it's only 1,800.
1800, yeah.
Oh, that's a deal.
That's yeah. It's not
I
that
mean,
we
as a guy who
wanted.
knows, because I've spent
Yeah,
a lot of money on
I know.
purifications. I mean, listen, anybody out there that I know a lot of people at the entry level, they know about reverse osmosis systems, and those whole house systems all run about 5K. So
So you can imagine, but that's why I'm saying we intentionally did this. We knew we could put much, much, much higher price on it, especially given the value, the effect you're having. But our whole goal is to make it available for pretty much everybody.
yeah, that's really cool.
So in this way, you install it in your piping system. Anywhere you open your faucet, you get coherent water, and also you can bathe in it, which is the number one thing, and you get all the benefit then. And the next flagship model we're going to be coming up, it will take at least 6 months to a year, is we want to make the ultimate water treatment system, so that you have water purified from all the chemicals in the right way, so you have the right mineral composition of the water, and you make it coherent.
Very cool. Okay,
Yeah.
that's gonna be exciting. I can't
Yeah.
wait, man. Some good stuff coming out our way then. Man, I think we covered a lot. Anything you just meant? I was going to ask you if there's anything new and exciting, but you just mentioned we've got the purification slash whole coherent water system. Is there anything else on the horizon that you guys are up to? That
Well,
we
I
can
just want to
expect?
mention mission statement of our company. Our whole mission is to make all the bodies of water coherent. And I know it will take time, and we want to bring it to the governmental level. But can you imagine? We already developed this technology which we can install in the biggest wells of the biggest rivers. Then the microbiome and the frequency of water would change, and all the life down the stream will thrive. And all this water will enter into oceans. And then the oceans will become coherent. And then we would have coherent planet. And that would really, really change how we live on this planet. Because as I mentioned, this water connects us to our larger environment. It connects us not only to other humans, it connects us to all life, to Mother Earth as the planet. And then I truly believe that we are not going to be able to behave to each other in such violent ways. Because when you experience another human being as an extension of yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything bad to that another human, because you realize that we are all one.
So amazing. Man, that's so powerful, and I couldn't agree more. You and I are definitely in harmony when it comes to that. Man, last but not least, is there just any, before we wrap things up and let people know where you guys they can find you, learn more about your products, and where you're at on social media? Is there just anything else that I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
I
And
think we
I know you and we're gonna wrap things up because of time wise, but we could always wrap for a second episode and go into even more
Most
details
definitely,
on
because
other
yeah,
niche
as I
topics. Yeah.
mentioned, we're going in various directions. So we're constantly investing a lot of into the whole science, and I'm telling you, wherever we go is super exciting. So definitely, I'm going to keep you informed of everything that we're doing. But I think we covered a lot of ground. I just want to say to people, you can go to coherent-water.com. That's coherent-water.com. I also suggest that you jump on our newsletter, because then you can follow our science, because we're constantly investing in new science, and there we can share. And of course, you can, if you want to purchase the product and get the benefit yourself, you can always do that and get more information on the whole technology and everything that we're doing.
Amazing. And then Mario, on social media, Instagram, where are you guys at Analemma-Water? If people want to follow you there and learn
Yeah,
more about.
Analemma-Water. There is, I think, this lower. It's not just Analemma-Water, but I think when you type in Analemma-Water, you're going to find us soon. Yeah.
Amazing. Mario, appreciate you so much from Analemma-Water and just all the work you guys are doing. It's a true game changer, and I'm going to have to look into that whole house system. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Really, thank you so much. It's my privilege and my pleasure, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share the information about this water, because this water can truly it can. I really believe it can change the world. You are like a lighthouse. You are sharing relevant information about health and wellness to people, and this is exactly what we need now. We need to create this amazing virtual network of people that share the relevant information. Just like you mentioned, it's all about the frequency. If we all start to vibrate in this higher way, we can literally change the planet in the most powerful way possible. So thank you so much for doing the work that you do and for giving me the opportunity to share all of this with the world. Thank you.
Mario from Analemma-Water, we'll have you back on, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.